This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of First Horizon Bank.
Everyone has aspirations, and often we see them as experiences to be lived sometime down the road. But we say, why wait? Welcome to Bucket Listening, brought to you by First Horizon Bank, where we talk to people who have found a way every day to live their bucket life right now. Hi, I'm Tabitha Scott, a human dynamics expert and the host of this podcast. I hope you'll join me as I sit down with people from all walks of life to learn how their passions, insights, and persistence have helped them turn their bucket list into a beautiful life. This is Bucket Listening, presented by First Horizon.
Welcome to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Thank you for joining us on this show. If you're a fan of the show, you know this deal. We look for workplace, workforce, and marketplace trends that are shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us. I try to find people who can tell good stories that will give us insights on these trends so that we can adopt them and apply them to our own world in whatever that may be. And always looking for the good story of the trends that are shaping the marketplace today. One of those trends that's actually been in place for a while is farm to table. I've interviewed a couple of restaurateurs on this show who boast about their farm to table stuff, and I have eaten at their stores and their restaurants, and it is very good. But what I've not done on this show is interviewed somebody who is, let's call him an ingredient maker for a farm to table. It was introduced not long ago to Joey Mason with Mason Hills Farms. And what I like about Joey's story is that Joey chose to get into the cattle business. It was not as if he had no other options. He chose to get into the cattle business and wanted to raise some very fine beef for your and my table if you're a beef eater. And my experience, and you may recall Hastings Reed on the show last week, he chose to get into the woodworking business and chose to do so slowly and carefully and deliberately so that he could create a woodworking business that really met the needs of his customers and he could figure it out. He was not saddled with any sort of encumbrance from the way we used to do things. He could very carefully and skillfully go about creating his business. Joey's done the same. He's not a farmer by background. He's not farmer as a child who's been restricted to the farm his entire life and ultimately becomes a farmer because that's all he knows. He has chosen to step aside, or actually he's not stepped aside, but he's got another business, but is really, with 2 feet, jumped into raising cattle for your and my consumption. And I visited Joey's farm. He and I were out there with another buddy. We did a little dove hunt one afternoon, and we saw the cattle that he has there. I want to say it's about 150 head of cattle, and the processing plant that he's building from the ground up. And he's really meticulously going about this because he's very interested in it and is learning the business skills necessary to be successful in this very demanding business of raising animals for consumption. So when we come back from break, we're going to meet Joey. We're going to learn about his story, his background, and why he's chosen to begin a new business while still having a very demanding and successful and lucrative business going on at the same time. And I find these people that have made these choices to get into these new professions or these new expertises a really good conversation point because they can really look at things analytically of what they've done and tell you why they've made the decisions that they've made. So a lot to look forward to. I am an advocate of his, just like I'm an advocate of so many people that are willing to give me their time and tell me their stories and admit to the mistakes that they've made and share their dreams and aspirations for the businesses that they're in and the trends that they're discovering along the way. Humanely taking care of the cattle, for example, using every piece of the animal, leaving nothing to waste, finding different and creative uses for many of the parts of the animal that Joey will talk about. And I saw it as the as I went into, I don't know the room's name, but all these halves of cows hanging and the meat. It was like that scene from Rocky. And I desperately wanted to ball my fist up and start boxing on one of these big pieces of beef hanging from a hook. I didn't, just so that you know, it wouldn't have been right. But you're going to meet Joey Mason when we come back from break, and I think you're going to be really interested in his story and hopefully maybe want to support somebody like him that's taken such a big risk, willfully doing it, trying to avoid the mistakes and learning along the way, and that's the nature of this show. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Again, glad to have you on for the ride. When we come back from break, you're going to meet Joey Mason, and you're going to enjoy this. We'll be right back.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. In the studio today, I'm Cam Marston. Sitting across from me is Joey Mason of Mason Hills Farm. I've been to the farm. I've known this guy for several weeks now. I'm a big fan of who he is and what he does, and it tastes really good. Joey, first and foremost, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your background, which is so very interesting as it is, and then what you're doing today.
So my background has always been in erosion control and making sure that we grow really good forage for erosion purposes. And then we took that and made sure that we could duplicate it on a large scale for our cattle.
So you were in the erosion control business. And as I think about that, I see them spraying this stuff out on the side of the highway that is designed to keep things from washing. It's like seeds and stuff like that grows the grass that prevents the wash, Bahia grass.
That's correct.
And you have an expertise in growing that type of stuff, and it lends itself automatically to growing grass to raise cattle.
Yes, sir.
So there's got to be a gap between, hey, I'm good at growing grass, maybe I should sell beef. Tell me about that transition.
Yeah, there seems to be a pretty huge step. We're still in the erosion control market. We still do really well at that. And but it was back during COVID when things were a little crazy. I sold my property on the river and decided to buy a 200-acre cattle farm out in the middle of nowhere. Had no idea what I was doing, which lended itself to making sure that I would be excellent at it.
Yeah.
The first year, we just really focused on making sure that our forage was right, cleaning up the fields, and then making sure that our genetics were right so that I know that whenever we are processing them, we have the best products that we can offer to our customers.
And the cattle that you raise are meant for, obviously meant for consumption, but this doesn't go through grocery store. This is a high-end product. This is a premium product. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so what we did was whenever our genetics, our Angus genetics that we're using, meet the forage that we currently have in the environment, we've learned that we have a really good product. And so we wanted to offer that as we were consuming it, offer it to the public.
Yeah. And so you have essentially, I could go online and buy a cow, a half a cow, a quarter of a cow, cuts, individual cuts from the meat that you produce. And it's different. And I tasted it. It's different. Why is it different?
It's different because, like I said, we started with a good forage. And then we start with the best genetics that we can find.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the good environment. The cows are happy and free and doing their thing. And then we grain finish them, or sometimes we leave them on 100% grass because some people like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about that real quick. This was interesting to me. Grass-fed, grain finished. Tell me more about what that is.
Yeah. So when they get to a certain weight, we'll pull them off and then start giving them free choice grain along with the grass. And then eventually as we go, then we'll slow the grass down and increase their protein intake on the grain side. And that really takes that marbling to a different level, and it creates a cleaner, I feel like a cleaner meat. It's what we're eating in the grocery stores currently is grain finished.
Grain finished. So there's a lot of hoopla around grass-fed beef. What you're telling me is grass-fed beef is good, but not as tasty as grain-finished beef.
You know, it's just a different flavor profile.
Yeah.
If you're not used to eating grass-finished beef and you eat it, that you'll notice a more earthy taste, a more wild game taste. What that grain is doing is taking out some of that gaminess and adding marbling to your product.
Yeah. So every morning I try to have a little bit of yogurt along with some, what is the word? Granola. I'm adding marbling to myself is what you're telling me.
Essentially, yes.
Yes. That's exactly
but
what I need.
It's a lot better than eating Doritos in the morning.
Good. Doritos adds a different type of marbling, I guess. And I would be good in marketplace, I guess. I would make a great brisket. It's interesting to me, Joey, that you chose this. I mean, because the most cattle and farmers that I meet have been in this their entire life. You say, what did you do? Well, I was born and raised on a farm. But at some point you said, I want to do this. And you uprooted. You left your home on the river down here in South Alabama, moved out to the western part of Mobile County. And in my opinion, and you've alluded to this a little bit, it makes you a little bit, it gives you a different approach to the market. You're not confined or constrained by the way we've always done it on the family farm. You've been able to pick and choose how you do things. Is that correct?
Yeah, as I stated before, I really had no idea what I was doing several years ago when we started on this journey. And as I've grown, I've seen ways that people do it correctly and ways that I think that it can be improved. And so we're just constantly working on the things that are improving. Whenever you get a beef product or a protein product from us, it's been years in the making.
Yeah. So how long, let's say, I think you told me when I was out at your farm that a typical the cattle is aged about it was less than 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah. So around less than 2 years. Some of them finish a little different. It all depends on the time of the year that things are getting finished out. The heat affects things.
Yeah.
Their rate of gain, and so things will finish out. We like to harvest animals that are 24 months or less.
Or less. So. You said it takes years to get that. Let's assume I've got a ribeye steak in front of me and it's one of yours, and it's taken years to get this thing to this moment in time where it's come off the grill and it's sizzling and in front of me. Give me a sense of the years that it's taken, and not just the 18 to 24 months of the cow itself, but all the planning that has gone in well in advance of that.
Well, you have to make sure that the animals that are going to be on your property have the best forage so that they can be the most successful. You have to pick the best genetics so that we're not having a whole bunch of disease outbreaks. I mean, there's reasons for all of this.
Yeah.
And then there's the mama cow is becoming of age where she can become pregnant. There's a gestation period, and then the 24 months starts.
Yeah.
After the gestation period.
But even more than that was what I saw on your farm was the thoughtfulness in producing the facility. What do we call the facility? The barn there, for lack of a better term. I mean, it was well thought out in the way the product moves through the barn.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought to all of that. That way, there's not any cross-contamination.
Yeah.
There's a lot of efficiencies that happen in the facility.
Yeah. And give me a sense of what those efficiencies are. Because you introduced me to something I knew nothing about. So give me one example of what some of the efficiencies are that I saw in that barn that the listener will say, I'd never thought about that.
Some of the efficiencies that we have is we use artificial intelligence to grade each animal that come through our facility. So
tell me more about that. That's fascinating.
So as the animal has been harvested and is hanging on the rail, we're able to cut between the 12th and 13th rib, use artificial intelligence to grade that ribeye section so that we can know the marbling score, the fat content, and that's how you get the prime choice or select cuts.
I want to talk about that more when we get back from break. But before we go into break, I wanted to remind you of Bucket Listening, the podcast from First Horizon Bank. Their attitude is, why wait until you're too late in life to begin your bucket list? Why don't you make your career a part of your bucket list? And First Horizon Bank is the one that can facilitate that. The podcast is called Bucket Listening, hosted by Tabitha Scott. There's a lot of stories from business leaders, many of whom you may be familiar with, some record executives whose names I knew, a couple of football coaches whose names I knew that said, this is always what I've wanted to do, and I've been able to start it at an early age. No reason to wait to the end to start your bucket list. Find Bucket Listening on your favorite podcast app, brought to you by First Horizon Bank. When we come back from break, more with Joey Mason, Mason Hills Farm, and this farm-to-table, delicious product that he produces in West Mobile County. We'll be right back. Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. I'm in the studio today. I'm Cam Marston, sitting across from Joey Mason with Mason Hills Farm. Find them at masonhillsfarm.com. And we're going to get further into the story of this guy that has chosen to start a farm. So many of the farmers' kids that I meet in my work traveling across the country are doing whatever they're doing so that they never have to go back to a farm. But here's Joey has had some sort of calling to the farm life, and it's not crops, it's not agriculture, it's animals. And I've been there. It's beautiful, and he's got a good story to tell. Joey, tell me now let's not talk about how you're getting the word out. Who uses your product now? I know it's relatively new to the marketplace, but who's using it?
So our sales currently are pretty much driven by online sales.
Yeah.
People can go online to our website and order. Currently, we're hand delivering it, but as of a few weeks from now, we'll be able to deliver it and make our markets much broader.
Mm-hmm. And what about the restaurants because it's restaurant quality stuff? I think you told me don't you have a USDA guy on site?
Yeah, so what separates us and makes us different than most processing facilities is we're the only USDA inspected facility. We're not a state inspected facility, but we're inspected by the federal government. And so they are ensuring that the animals are humanely handled, that everything is clean and stable so that we can sell our beef internationally if we need to. And that's what separates us from anybody else locally.
One of the guests on the show in the past has been Billy Stitt with Billy's Bacon. And he does not harvest animals, but he does get a lot of raw bacon, for lack of a better, pig belly.
Yep.
And he has a USDA guy. And if I'm not mistaken, he is required to give this person an office?
That is correct.
Is that the same with you?
Yeah, we have to give them an office.
And what do they do in there?
Play tiddlywinks? No, they really, our USDA inspectors and the folks that have worked with us have been really good.
Yeah.
You have some bad apples every now and then, but generally speaking, they want to see us succeed. It's very difficult to get, almost impossible. But
it's very difficult to get or impossible to get what?
The USDA inspection.
Oh, I see.
Because you have a grant of inspection that comes. They come into your facility. They look at this encyclopedia of information that you've had to produce on how things will be done step by step. It's kind of like flying an airplane. You know, we check this and then we check this and we check this and we do a pre-check. We check the checks.
And there is, when I saw the beef hanging in that cooling room, there's a stamp on the animal.
Yeah, that's really cool. The first time that we got our USDA stamp in the mail, that was a really cool experience.
Do you stamp it or do they stamp it?
They stamp it. Sometimes they let us stamp it depending on how many they've stamped.
Whether their arm hurts or not.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting there. What is your pitch to the restaurateur? Let's assume somebody came into the recording studio here and he or she had a high-end restaurant. What are you telling them that sets your stuff apart? They can get their food distributor probably carries, and I'm making something up here, 30 different types of beef from 30 different people who all say they're different. What's your pitch?
Our pitch is that we're local and that we're taking the beef process back to how it used to be. We're dry aging these whole entire slabs of animals versus what you're getting, what they would be getting or getting in the grocery stores. It's called wet aging is what generally is sold now.
So what is wet aging?
Wet aging is the animal comes off the line, is processed, is instantly put into a bag, and then it ages inside of its own juices.
And dry aging is?
Allowing the animal to sit there and hang and let rigor mortis kind of take effect and for some of that moisture to come out of the animal so that when you buy from us, you're getting closer to a pound versus buying from somebody else.
And if you're buying from someone else, a lot of the pound is in the old juices.
That is correct. Generally about 4 ounces out of 16 ounces
is going to be old juices. And
that's why you have this shrinkage that happens whenever you buy meat because there's moisture. And so we wanted to make sure that when you buy from us, you're getting the aging process, which helps marble everything, or not marble everything, but make everything mesh together.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you make banana pudding, you put it in the refrigerator. Tomorrow it's going to be much better. And day 2, it's going to be phenomenal because everything's just getting happy in there.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening when rigor mortis is taking place, is that all of that stuff is starting to combine.
I haven't thought about my banana pudding as having rigor mortis, but I like it. And because I am a banana pudding snob, and I'm going to start asking wherever I go, do you serve banana pudding? Yes. What is the state of the rigor mortis on the banana pudding? And if they can't answer that question, I'm not going to order it. You've taught me something here. So the restaurants, I guess, are somewhat, here's Cam Marston's opinion. All these restaurateurs, and I love them, and many of them are you're my friends. He had dinners with us Sunday night at your place. But they all claim this unique specialty and expertise and palate and things like that. They're a little bit better than everybody else, and their selection of the food that they choose is a little bit better than everyone else, and motives and reasons behind it. Have you had a challenge getting them to pay attention. In other words, the restaurateur says, no, we're good. I know what I'm doing. We're good. Or are there things that you're telling them that make that restaurateur say, wait a minute, this is new and different?
We don't belong in every restaurant. We're not producing a commodity beef type product. We're producing an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people that have reached out to us or we've reached out to them understand that. And they are coming to the plant. They're touring the facility. They're seeing how we raise these animals. Some local people are coming by in a few weeks, and they understand animal husbandry, that we have to utilize the whole animal. And whether we utilize it with them or utilize it in some of these different product lines, they understand this, and they're looking for top quality beef because COVID moved the goalpost.
Tell me about that.
Well, you've got COVID moving the goalpost. You've got cattle herd shrinkage moving the goalpost. So what used to be considered choice or prime is now lower grades. And so people just want honesty, I feel like, in their protein selections. And so that's what we offer in these restaurants that we currently in. Understand that. They understand the chewability, the palatability, the taste, the yield that they get for their money. All is playing a factor in why they do business with us.
Using the whole animal. That is, when you say that, I'm reminded of maybe a fifth grader learning about the Native Americans and how when they would kill a bison, they'd use the entire animal for something like that. What are you doing with the whole animal? I hesitate to ask that question, but what are you doing with the whole animal?
We're making valiant attempts to offer different products. Some of the fat we use to render down or sell to folks that can render down for tallow. The soot is made into soaps and different things, so we're able to use that. The bones are dog food bones or marrow bones for marrow butter, and then some of the other scrap stuff that we have, our trims. We have just launched a dog food line that will allow your animal, your furry friend, to eat the same quality beef that you do.
It's amazing what people do for their pets. It's amazing the slices of meat that they'll import meat for their dog who licks its feet and other parts of its own body, yet we'll still give it extraordinarily fine food.
So why not give them the best and buy it from us?
Yeah, well, they're out there, man. They're out there. They feed their pets better than themselves. They give their pets better medications than they take themselves. I don't quite get it, and I know that there's somebody out there angry with me right now, but I don't quite get it.
And we had this conversation the other day while we were at the farm.
Yeah, we did. They're out there. You know that they're out there. So in the studio today, sitting across from Joey Mason, his company's Mason Hills Farm. They're located in western Mobile County down here in Alabama, for those of you listening outside of the state. When we get back, we'll start talking a little bit about his plans to grow the company. It's part of why we're here today, as well as I think he said they're going to start shipping this thing. And folks, I take no financial interest in this. I like the guy. I like the story. I like the way he's going about it, and I'm going to help him as much as I can. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back with Joey Mason right after this break.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. In the studio, Joey Mason sits across from me. Mason Hills Farm. Like I said in the previous segment, most farmers get out of farms, is my experience, and he has chosen to get into it. And it's in this segment that we ask some random questions to learn a little bit more about the man, not the professional, but the man behind the scenes. So, Joey, I've shared with you these 8 questions. We've shared them with a lot of guests. And interesting to hear, I mean, what does a farmer do? Here, let's begin. We'll begin it this way. It's Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. What is a farmer that has how many head of cattle right now?
There's probably 150 out there now.
What does a farmer with 150 head of cattle in his backyard do at 4 p.m. on a Saturday?
Well, right now we're dove hunting.
I like the answer to that.
Having fun doing that.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful place. But if you're not dove hunting, what are you up to?
Generally just relaxing and trying to really make sure that we take in the moment, that I take in this, what I've been afforded.
Yeah.
And not always working.
Yeah. It's got to be difficult to turn things off when you step out of your house and there's 150 of your products grazing around, hoping that they're doing okay. There's another structure in process back there that I'm sure you could always find something to do. There's a tractor that needs to be fixed. There's a dog that needs to, it's got to be hard to turn off for a guy like you, which is why all these farmers I meet have typically left the farm. All right, next question in the segment 4 questions. The generation with whom you enjoy working with the most?
I enjoy working with all generations because you learn something from each one of them. My dad's generation, the generation before me, the generation that have come after me. I find myself kind of like my dad. This generation behind me doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
You know.
They've said that for a long time.
Millennia.
Millennia is exactly right. I think Aristotle's got one of my favorite quotes about the next generation being worthless and useless. Your dad, you told me when we were last together that there was a product that you've named for your father.
Yeah, so I brought Dad in to retire to come help us with the farm, and you talked about there's always something to do. What I've learned is that we can use the right people in their skill sets, do a very good job.
So your dad, let's talk about the right people real quick. One of the regular conversations that we have on this show is finding the right people for their workplace, whether that workplace be what it is you do. I've had a craftsman on the show recently. How are you finding the people to help you staff the farm?
I have no idea. But for my whole life and all the different businesses that I've been involved in, if I build it, they come.
Yeah.
And when you treat people with integrity and respect and not like a number, they tend to do a lot better job for you. If you have their back like they have yours, it just tends to do well. And since we're a family-run business and I have my dad, as you mentioned, working with me, we just try to create this family. Sometimes it works for some, and sometimes it doesn't for others, but generally speaking, it works really well.
So I know that you've got a USDA guy on site. He's not on staff. He's being paid by our federal government, if I understand that correctly.
Unless we get into overtime.
Oh, really?
That's correct.
Then it comes out of you pay that overtime.
$100 an hour.
Whoa. So you, your father, the USDA guy, kinda. Who else? How many other people? I don't want names, but how many other people you got that come regularly to keep this farm running?
There's like 10 or 12 people that work there on a regular basis. And what we're doing right now is training this core team on how everything, the mechanics of how this process works, so that then they can then teach other folks how to be successful in what we're doing.
And are they farmer backgrounds? Do they have agriculture backgrounds at all? Or are they all from all different walks of life?
We have people from all different walks of life. And the joy of this is I get to look at these people from all different walks of life and the different generations and figure out what their traits are, what their strengths are, and figure out where inside this organization they belong and where they thrive.
There you go. So you're building a business literally from the ground up, the grass in the field, in the ground, all the way to training people to train people. You're training the trainers.
Yeah, I want them to experience the hobby just like I'm experiencing it now.
They've chosen to be there.
That is correct.
We got off track. This is typical of me. You named something for your father.
So whenever you're taking and processing these animals, the most of the product that you're going to have is products that you can grind. And so we are launching a new brand of hamburger called Herschel Burger. It should be able to compete with the Bubba Burger brand.
Yeah.
And the Herschel Burger will allow you to have this high quality product that we've talked about throughout the show right on your grill.
So your father's name is Herschel.
It is.
And you named some burger after him.
Yeah, because I wanted him to have a legacy.
Yeah.
That would outlive him. And so I really tried to do that.
Yeah. What does he think about that? When you told him that, what did he think?
Well, we're waiting on the box to come in, but whenever I reveal the box to him, I think that he's going to be overcome with joy.
Yeah.
And it's these little moments where we're riding in the buggy, looking at all the cows, and he says, "Joey, you've really done a good job, and I'm proud of you."
Oh man, every boy seeks his father's approval. I've learned that as an adult. My father, he's 87, and I still look for his approval, and I can feel my son's doing it with me. Good for you. Good on you for your dad.
Yeah.
You mentioned dog food. Where can people find that?
So they can find it online too. Everything that we are offering is online, and we have some retail partners, and we have some other partners that are coming on board as we speak, as we're doing the segment. And so hopefully you'll be able to find it in a grocery store or a specialty market somewhere near you.
What is the dog food called?
Ranger's Select.
And is your dog named Ranger?
Yeah, our white dog that really doesn't do much, his name is Ranger. My other dog, Sadie, she works the cow. She goes to retrieve ducks. These are two labs that came from the river that are now working dogs. So we're all in culture shock here.
That's wonderful. I think you need to make sure Ranger knows that if she ever comes completely worthless, she may be inside that package at some point.
You know, the reason that we're feeding her this dog food is so that she will not become worthless.
Okay. We don't want Ranger to be grain fed or anything like that towards the end. Oh, there's wonderful marbling on Ranger.
You know,
it's sacrilege what we're talking about here, by the way.
It wouldn't be in different cultures.
It wouldn't be in different cultures. Let's move on. Question number 3, biggest business mistake you've ever made. I love this one.
I think
Hard to say.
I think the biggest business mistake that I've made has also been the most rewarding, and that is trusting people.
Oh, interesting. So it's two sides of the same coin.
It is. But once how we're able to do all of this and able to rest at 4:00 on a Saturday is because I've learned to trust people and not micromanage them. Some of the things that I've learned in my years of being on this planet is how to read people and give them enough breath, but then just really investing in them all the time. Spending time, you're human. You're not just a number.
So the biggest business mistake you've made is trusting people who didn't deserve it. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Or who betrayed your trust, and it's taught you the skill of how to read people.
That's correct.
And do you make those same mistakes anymore?
Yeah, I think that you still make some of the same mistakes, but they're not as often. And you're able to, if you take a step back at 4:00 on a Friday afternoon, you're able to look back at who you can trust and who you can't.
How do people find you? They're curious. They have a palate for beef. How do they find you?
You can go to our website, masonhillsfarm.com, search around, and add stuff to your cart. You can go to some local grocery stores that we have here, and hopefully very soon you'll be able to find our products in your stores close to you.
I follow you on social media, and I know that's very active as well. Folks, on the podcast notes for this show, I'll have links to Mason Hills Farm if you want to go there. Joey, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I wish you the best. We'll be back after this break with segment 5. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Be right back.
This is Trey Langus with Transworld Business Advisors. I help business owners sell their businesses from mom and pop size to large mergers and acquisitions. We have a huge buyer database looking for quality businesses to buy right now. Confidentiality guaranteed. If you're a business owner considering an exit within the next few years, let's talk. Again, I'm Trey Langus. Find me at Transworld Business Advisors or Google my name.
MasonHillsFarm.com. If you're interested in it, I don't know if Joey and I talked about it, but they're now shipping anywhere, maybe internationally, but let's say with confidence. If you're listening to this show in the U.S., they can pack this stuff up and send it to you. And if you've got a taste for this type of thing, it's fun to talk to people who have developed these really specific expertise, these tastes. I had the guy from Macallan Scotch on the show a couple years ago, probably one of my favorite episodes, just due to his capability of describing the scotches that that he represents across the U.S. And I find these people with these remarkably refined tastes for specific products, scotches, wines, beef, and listening to them talk about it is fun for me. I like to watch the gestures that they make as they talk about the nuance of the flavors. It's fun to watch. So I challenge you, next time you're in front of somebody that likes wine, ask them, hey, describe this wine for me. What do you taste here? And then just watch their gestures. Watch their hands take off as they're trying to sculpt the tastes that they're tasting with their hands. Anyway, MasonHillsFarm.com. You'll find that in the show notes. If you want to send it to somebody that you know that's a big fan of beef, you can find that show at what'sworkingcam.com. You can find it on all your favorite podcast sites. Search my name for What's Working. Put Cam Marston in your favorite podcast site. You should get that What's Working will pull up, as well as the commentaries that I do on a weekly basis for Alabama Public Radio. I've got 2 of these podcasts, this one being the What's Working one. Anyway, go to the podcast site, enter my name, you can find them. And, of course, I want you to follow me on social media where you can get updates on the show. I think we took pictures of Joey in here while we were recording. You can get a sense of what he looks like. What you can't get a sense of in the photograph of Joey is the energy and the enthusiasm he brings to what he's doing. The man is constantly in motion, and when you hit a chord with him of something that he knows well and he's very excited about, there's not a room or a chair or even a microphone that can contain the energy. It was fun watching him behind that mic as he talked about what he loved so much. So I want you to do this for me. Reach out if you've got a story that needs to be told, particularly in some of the newer markets that we're getting into. We've just landed in Dothan, Alabama. It's not been long that we've been in Auburn. It's not been long that we've been in Miles City, Montana, believe it or not. If you're in Miles City and you've got a story that needs to be told about a business in your local marketplace, email me, cam@cammarston.com. Let me know who they are, what their story is, what they're doing that's unique and different, that they're very passionate about it, and they've got to be willing to admit to the mistakes that they've made. They've got to be willing to share the vulnerabilities that they faced as they grow their business, and to offer you and me some insights that will make each of us, as I say in the opening, a little bit better at whatever it is we do. I love to get the stories and the suggestions from you, so please don't hesitate to reach out and tell me what you got in mind. However, I am a little bit wary of shameless self-promotion. I want a story, not a promotion. I'll do the promoting. You tell me the story. That's the way it works around here. You're listening to What's Working. I want to thank Brad Rogers. He's the show's new editor. We've been working together for a little while now, and takes out all the ands and the ums and the you-knows and has brought the show into a broader marketplace. Thanks, Brad. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks for listening. As you likely know, this show originates as a radio show broadcast across the state of Alabama, and it continues to grow in both radio listeners and market. After it's formatted for radio, we then turn it into this podcast. Please share it with those you think would find it interesting, and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube page where you can leave messages and your thoughts and your comments, and I'll certainly get back in touch. Finally, if you're a fan of the show, please offer a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find my book called What Works on Amazon.com. In it, I highlight the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. Mind you, they're not the top 10 best episodes, they're the top 10 best ideas. Many times the same ideas are brought up again and again by different guests, and we dig into those ideas in such a way that they'll be easily applicable for your business. Simply go to Amazon and enter my name, and you'll find What Works as well as my other books. Chapter titles include How to Find a Niche, Innovation, Building Teams, and so forth. To learn more about the workshops and seminars I offer, go to cammarston.com. There you can view clips of my work, view workshop titles, view my reviews, case studies, customer lists. It's all there. If you'd like a free copy of one of the chapters of my book, enter your email address at the bottom of the homepage at cammarston.com. And from that site, you can email me directly. I always love to hear from you. You'll also find me on social media. Find Cam Marston on all the social media platforms, and you may need to enter the numeral 1. There's one other Cam Marston out there, and that numeral 1 distinguishes me from him from time to time. So if you're unsure if it's me or not, enter that numeral 1 after my name, and it should do the trick. On a more personal and less professional side, I record weekly commentaries that air across Alabama on Alabama Public Radio twice each day on Fridays called Keeping It Real. They've won statewide and national awards. They're simple observations on the world as it goes on around me, and they're only a few minutes long. They're a passion. You can find them on the same podcast app you're using to listen to this. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on this podcast or the radio show, reach out. I've worked hard to cultivate a specific listener, and I can tell you all about them, and I have many different options for helping you reach them. Thanks again for listening. We'll have another episode available soon.